Hello, this is Ted, and this is Issues of Life. And we have been discussing and digging into how to connect with and communicate with God as our Father, as our Daddy, um, using the Our Father prayer as a guideline. Because the disciples asked Jesus, how, teach us how to pray. Teach us how to communicate with God the way you do. And his response to that was what we now know as the Our Father prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, holy is your name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. And on earth as it is in heaven, etc., etc. So in our last couple of sessions, we've been breaking that down. We talked about Jesus when he started out saying our Father, that word Father meaning daddy, and how the first and the most important thing that we need to know is we need to understand that when we're coming to God, when we're approaching God in order to talk to him and communicate with him, pour our heart out with him, that he is our daddy and he looks at us as his little children. So imagine yourself looking at your children and the feeling that you're having and the emotions that you're having and the desire that you have of communicating with your kids, and multiply that by thousands of times, and you are just starting to scratch the surface about how God feels about us and what he desires in his relationship with us, and how interested he is in hearing what we have to say and responding and giving us the answers and just the communication that we want. So that's how we started, and now we're into thy kingdom come, thy will be done. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the kingdom, and we'll be spending some time on this. We said that where is a kingdom? What is a kingdom? A kingdom is wherever the king reigns. And Jesus talked a lot about the kingdom. And honestly, in my life, and even as I started to study the Bible and the scriptures, and that was always something that I really didn't understand, and I don't pretend to understand everything about it now. I'm just learning as I'm getting into this further and further. But what does that mean? He says, because Jesus said the kingdom is here and it's among you. And that word among you really means in you, in you. So it's the kingdom is where the king reigns. Jesus said to Pontius Pilate, he said, my kingdom is not of this world. Okay? My kingdom is not of this world. So he established that he does have a kingdom and he is the king. But he said, my kingdom is not of this world. Well, where is his kingdom? His kingdom is where he reigns. And if we allow him to reign in our hearts, then he is the king over our hearts. And so we said that Jesus is the king if we allow him to be the king, if we submit our lives to him. That's why we call him Lord. Okay? We belong to the king. And the Bible says in Colossians 1, verse 13, it says, for he, Jesus, has rescued us and has drawn us to himself from the dominion of darkness and has transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son. So God has rescued us and is out of the dominion of darkness and transferred us into the kingdom of his Son. So there again, what's it saying? It's saying that we were before we were transferred into Jesus's kingdom, we were under the dominion of darkness, or whether or not we knew that or not, or anything, we were under the dominion. We were being controlled and manipulated by darkness. But through Jesus Christ, we are transferred from the dominion of darkness into the kingdom of his beloved Son. Okay? So, again, what does that mean? That means that Jesus is our King. He reigns in our heart. Okay? Now, we also talked about in a kingdom, how does a king rule? He rules by edict. He rules by his word. When the king says something, let it be so. And then they write it on a scroll. They spread it out through all the people of the kingdom. And they say the king says that this is the way it's going to be. And if you don't obey, then guess what? Things go really bad, right? That's how kingdoms work. And if you think about it, we don't think today in terms of kingdoms and kings and stuff. But back then they knew a lot more about it than we do today. But if you think about it, it's not that far off from the same thing. How does our government work? Our government works by establishing rules, regulations, laws, and those are written things. Those are words. Those are rules. But the rules are words. Okay? So Jesus, our King, wants to rule our heart. How does he do that? By his word. Jesus said, "My word is life and it's spirit." Well, where's our spirit? On the inside of us. He says, the truth, my truth, that you know will set you free, will set your heart free. So, in other words, Jesus's word, when we embrace it, when we believe it, when we live by it, we commit to allowing his word to rule in our lives, to guide our lives, okay? And when we do that, then when we do that on the inside of us, it starts to manifest on the outside. It starts to show up in the way that we live our lives, in our behavior, and et cetera, et cetera. And so we're going to talk more about that in our next session of the Issues of Life.